everyone, and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode number 55, and this is a news brief, a Saturday news brief, and the title of this news brief is Everything Seems to Be Heating Up. So let's just get right into it and see what's going on in the world. It looks like Europe is laying off or getting rid of a lot of jobs, and the title of this article that I saw was Europe, is anyone on this continent going to have a job at all soon? And Portugal looks like they're going to cut around 30,000 government jobs and raise the retirement age. Basically what the Prime Minister is saying is that it's going to plans to cut $6.3 billion in the budget and raising the retirement age and laying off about 30,000 workers. They're also laying off 15,000 in Greece. Peugeot is laying off about 11,200 in France. 24,000 being cut in the military in France also. And we're seeing this happening all across Europe. I mean, in Spain, hit a new high in the registered job seekers, and the layoffs are around 40,000 people who lost their jobs, and the unemployment rate is now skyrocketing at around 23%. And we can just see from all across Europe, even here in America, I know they're telling us that unemployment is going down, but they change the calculation. It's almost like a person in their home saying, oh, our budget and our finances are okay. We're just not going to include our car payment or mortgage. We're only going to count food and when we go out to eat. But all the other stuff doesn't matter. This is what they do in the government. The things that really matter, they leave off. And the things that really don't, they leave on. And you get these ridiculous massage numbers, and it's a complete scam, just like Enron. I mean, their accounting methods, the whole thing was a sham. And we're doing the same thing, but just on a governmental level. Now, Bill Gross, Mark Farber, Ron Paul, Jim Rogers, they're all saying the bubble will get bigger before it implodes violently, and you're going to lose your money. We discussed this yesterday about them propping up the stock market, and the stock market is very close to 15,000. And there was a document I did in my previous episodes that showed, where they're trying to get the market. And if you look at the document, I think it was episode 53, and if you look at the document, it shows you that they've been very close, if you go back in the past, that they were very close of where they wanted the market to be and how far the market was going to go down, and we are right there. So we are getting very close to everything falling apart, and that's why I'm saying that everything seems to be heating up here. And these guys, Jim Rogers, Ron Paul, Mark Farber, Peter Schiff, Bill Gross, they are all the people who said this back in 2004, 2005, who predicted 2008 that we were going to have this major crash. And what they're saying is that what comes next will take the majority of the population by surprise. People are going to be shocked, and they are not going to know what the hell just happened. And for those people who say, oh, it can't happen here in America, they're saying don't kid yourself into believing it can't happen in America. It can, and it will. And this is what these guys are saying. So, for all those people who are still sleeping, not awake, not paying attention, they're going to be completely blindsided when this collapse hits. They're not going to know why this happened, because you have to remember, they've been listening to the mainstream media and the government, central banks, the Fed, telling them that everything's okay. Go back to sleep. The economy's doing well. Look at the stock market. Look at the real estate. It's all fabulous. The jobs, there's so many jobs out there. Everything is fabulous. And I hear it from people that I talk to every day. I listen to them, and when I start to say something the opposite, they really get nasty, like, no, don't you see it? Everything is better. Look at the real estate. Everything is so great. Values are going back up. It's time to start, thinking about moving into another home and start investing in. And people, if they see someone on the street that has a sign looking for work, they're like, go get a job, bum. It the mindset is completely off, and I feel sorry for them. And I try to tell them, you need to look at this, because look what happened in 2008. Jobs were at the lowest point ever right before the 2008 crash. Does everyone realize that we were at like 4.8%, 4.95%, and then all of a sudden it shot up to 10%. And they were telling us the real estate market's fine, we have it contained, the subprime, there's no problem with the subprime. And they actually went on saying that we don't know what everyone's talking about, and it caught people by surprise. This is going to be much, much worse. Now, moving on, the war propaganda and the war that they want to get started to hide this collapse that is coming is really heating up. I mean, I know Obama, is giving a speech, and he's telling people that he doesn't see it necessary to have troops in Syria. Well, like I've always said in the past, every time a government official or the central bank, the head of the Fed, tells you something, remember, it's always the opposite. Just look back in history. Look back at 2008. Everything's contained. We will not monetize the debt. They did the opposite. Go back to the Great Depression, when they said everything is fine, we have it under control, and then the Great Depression even crashed further. It's always the opposite of whatever they say. If he says we're never going to have troops in Syria, or we're not going to have troops, that means we are going to have troops in Syria. And we are. That they need to get this war started. Because who else are they going to blame for this collapse? And you can tell from everything that's going on that they're really, really pushing this and trying to heat up everything. Because now, U.S. official, North Korea, Iran obtained high-tech arms material bypassing sanctions. So they're telling us that both Iran and North Korea have developed channels that enable them to continue to export and continue to procure the items they need for the weapons industry. So they're letting us know that no matter what we do with sanctions, which is not enough, they are continually getting stuff they need to make these nuclear or weapons of mass destruction. This is what they're telling us in the news, and they're continually telling us this is what they're watching. We're making sure, and if it gets out of hand, we might need to step in. Now, there has been a report that Israel bombed Syria chemical weapons in Syria, and you can just see that it is building up this war. And I mean, already Israel is flying jets in there and bombing. And the Senate Resolution 65, which says that we will back up Israel and send troops into Iran if it gets out of hand, we'll join them in the war. This whole thing is starting to really move quickly now, because as we can see from that document from episode 53, you can see from the employment numbers and everything else around Europe, it's all falling apart, and they know it. And how do they know it? Because we see other things happening. We're seeing a report that came out today, and they're calling the group Op USA, where they're saying that this group is going to create this cyber attack, and they actually gave a date on May 7th. And what are the targets of this cyber attack on May 7th? They're going to hit the White House, FBI, National Security Agency, and other government organizations. Plus, they're not just going to stop there. They're going to hit financial institutions, and here's some of them: Bank of America, Citibank, along with another 130 type establishments, financial establishments. So, the Homeland Security is looking at this and they don't think it's going to be a real threat. And I'm just curious if they're just saying this because they know this is going to be much, much bigger, and they realize that this is going to be a real huge event. Now, it might not. It might just be the precursor to the real one. So we're going to have to see. I mean, it's strange that this group, because they like to tell everyone that when they're going to do this. We're going to have to see what happens on May 7th, which is only 3 days from now, because today's May 4th. So 3 days from now, we're going to have to see what actually happens and what this does, because will this be the main cyber attack event, or will this be a precursor to say, oh, Bank of America, the main banks got hit, the White House got hit, and we're defenseless against them, and if they do another hit against us, it could take out everything. And are they just showing the American people how vulnerable we are for the real one to come in right after this? So this is going to be very interesting. And we're seeing that the police state is really starting to clamp down, because now the DHS is ordering all foreign students checked for valid visas. So they're going through, telling the Border Patrol to really beef it up and double check everybody. So you can see that things are starting to heat up, and it's heating up on purpose. Oh, and another thing. Since we have a date of May 7th, for those who have not prepared, and I'm not just talking about gold and silver, because we don't know what this will turn. It might turn into nothing, okay? But again, as preppers and survivalists, or whatever you want to call yourselves, just be ready. Let's say it goes further and they hit the power grid and they take out a lot more, and it was a lot worse than they said. Just be prepared with food and water, batteries, medical supplies, and have your weapons and ammunition ready, just in case, because we don't know what this is going to be. And if you haven't, they're telling us they're going to hit major financial institutions. Just take some money out of the bank if you haven't already, and just keep it on you, just in case. You know what? I was in the blackout in 2003, and back then, I always kept cash on me. But you couldn't go to the ATMs because they were down. So, and you don't know that feeling until it really hits. Just have something on you. Just prep. Pretend a hurricane is coming, and you know it's coming on May 7th. Would you just sit in your house and say, gee, should I get batteries? Should I get food? Well, they're giving you a date right now. And this is from the government. This is not from someone's blog or anything like that. So just be ready. And, just be prepared. So, if nothing happens, you're extra prepared. That's all. Now, there was an interesting article that says, will American soldiers fire on U.S. citizens? And they talked about the DHS and, what do they need all this ammo for? And their conclusion was that DHS is not part of the military. It's a separate force, which we discussed before. And since they're not sure that the military will actually fire upon Americans, they're saying that DHS will. And, these are the things that we've been talking about, that the DHS is not put into place to protect Americans. They're put in place to spy on Americans, to label groups, and to be ready to control people when they need to. And how else can we see things heating up here? I mean, President Obama is blaming the United States for the gun violence in Mexico. Now, they ran the Fast and Furious, so basically he's out there telling the Mexican people that because of our Second Amendment and because of our guns, that's why you have so much gun violence. And, basically they sold the guns to Mexico. They are telling us, all these things. They're telling them all these things about, because we have a gun problem here in America. Basically, he's playing with words and mixing people up. And listen, they're the ones who cause most of these problems. Most of Americans, I'd say 99% of them who are gun owners, we don't walk around shooting up people. We're peaceful, we have families, we enjoy the sport, and people might like collecting guns, people like collecting cars. So he's still pushing the gun control agenda, which now has absolutely nothing to do with the kids. I know he pushed that in the beginning, but you can see they're veering off from it from completely because now, they have a bill thrown in, to regulate gunpowder and ammunition after the Boston bombing. It's amazing how they have these things ready to go. So this is far removed from their original agenda, and you can see that they need to get the guns any way they can. Now, I just wanted to say that someone emailed me and he wanted me to post this about Mexico. And this is what the people is all about. So I added the country Mexico on there, and I'm just going to read to you what he wrote. And basically, he's been living in central Mexico for 9 years, and he made some observations that confirm that we're hearing, what we're hearing on the air. My daughter just came down for a visit. We went to a local Walmart so they can get some things. When we got to the checkout, she went to pay in dollars, which Walmart here has always accepted. Well, no more. They do not accept the U.S. dollar there in Mexico. They won't take U.S. dollars, so we went to the bank, a major bank here in Mexico. Same thing, they won't exchange dollars for pesos any longer. They always have in the past. It used to be all the stores and vendors took dollars. And I remember when I used to travel, they used to love getting the dollars. Now none of them do. A Casa de Cambio is the only place to exchange dollars at a very poor exchange rate. I've purchased silver dollars from banks for years. The price has always been spot exchange rate plus 30 pesos, about $2.50. Last week, with the spot price of silver at 22, the purchase price should have been around $24.50, but it was over $30. The real problem was the banks didn't have any silver, none of them. As a side note, I want to clear up a blatant lie I keep hearing from Alex Jones. Guns are totally legal in Mexico. There are some rules. They don't have concealed carry without special permission. You can't have more than 10 guns. Handguns no bigger than a .38. Shotguns and rifles are okay. If you register your gun and shoot an intruder in your house, only a few questions are asked. Without a registration, it gets straightened out while you're in custody. Registration requires walking on a military base with a gun. Scary the first time, not a problem second, third, and paying a $3 fee. Everybody has a gun here. So you can see, and this is posted on The People, and if you go to the x22report.com, it says there's a link called The People, and if you go to Mexico, you will see this posted. So this is what The People is about. People from different countries, different states, different cities, different areas of the world telling us real information and not just hearing it from secondary sources that usually don't tell us really what's going on. And I love hearing real stories, and I'm sure you guys do too. But everything here around the world is heating up. We can see it, we feel it, and from everything that we see, things are starting to move very quickly. Listen, everyone, I just want to thank you. Have a great weekend. Remember, May 7th, they are saying something's going to happen. So be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks.